Good evening. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for attending this, the second 2018 mayoral candidate debate. This debate is being sponsored by the Key Biscayne Bar Association. It's a voluntary bar association of some of the finest counselors that live and work around the Key, including our two candidates. Thank you very much. This will be, correct me if I'm wrong, anyone, but I understand this will be our 8th mayoral election since incorporation in 1991, and the 4th contested. And we are very grateful to both of you for the time that you guys have dedicated and the efforts and resources you've put into this mayoral race. Could we get a round of applause for these two candidates, please? Also, I want to thank our existing Mayor Myra Lindsay and all of the council members for all the work they put into helping make our community a great place to live, and also to Todd Hofferberth for his help in organizing this event this evening. Jim, do you want to go ahead and explain a little bit the rules of engagement here and flip the coin?
Sure. We're not going to have opening statements. We're going to start directly with questions. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond to each question, and then the first candidate will have up to a minute to reply. Topics will include a few very general topics that relate to village finances and priorities, traffic, a lot of other things that if you saw the first debate, issues were touched on, but we're going to try to be a little bit more specific and a little bit more pointed than they were in the first debate. Towards the end of the debate, each of the candidates will have an opportunity to ask the other candidate a question of their choice, and we're hoping it's going to be a topic that wasn't touched on throughout the debate. Each candidate at the end will have an opportunity to give a 3-minute closing statement. And again, we're hoping that the candidates will touch on some of the issues that they consider to be the more important issues, maybe some issues that weren't touched on throughout the debate. We're going to start with a coin toss. We have, as Joe put it, the what is it?
That's it's an American penny. Some of you might remember that it's made out of copper. It's got Abraham Lincoln on it.
If it's we're gonna call it here. If it's heads, Lucho responds to the first question and gives the first closing statement. If it's tails, Mike will respond to the first question and give the first opening statement. So it is heads. No, it was heads.
Unverified, but Lucho, you're up.
Okay. First question. Sea level rise is an important issue. Is sea level rise preparation the responsibility of the village, the county, or someone else? And what should the village's role be?
I'm supposed to smile more and look at the crowd more so that my good friend Ed London and my boys approve of it. So sea level rise at the end of the day is our responsibility. The county has a certain responsibility, and of course, you know, they control Crandon Boulevard. But sea level rise in the village of Key Biscayne will depend on us. And one of the most important things with respect to sea level rise is our storm drainage infrastructure, because that is where basically we can have resources in order to help remove whatever water it is that we might come to. Right now, our drainage infrastructure is doing a lot better than it was right after Irma. When I found out after a lot of prodding that 75% of our catch basins were full of sand and silt. They have now all been cleaned, and we are cleaning the pipes in between the catch basins. That will allow us then to start with our next part of our master plan, which exists and has existed for some time in the village of Key Biscayne. It's been on the shelf, and I, through again a lot of prodding, had my co-council members agree with me that we needed a public works director who has now joined us, and I think he's going to be a game changer with respect to putting together and going forward with the master plan. So the master plan includes pumps, at 14 different areas that are going to either be pushing water down into wells, or they're going to push the water out into outflows. So that's where we are, and if we do it right, we'll be okay.
Thank you.
So the question is, can you repeat the question just real quick?
Sure. Sea level rise is an important issue. Is sea level rise preparation the responsibility of the village, the county, or someone else? And what should the village's role be?
Well, I think within the village of Key Biscayne, the municipality, it's our responsibility. And I'm not going to go over the points. We need to plan better. The stormwater drainage, we need pumps, backflow preventers. We should be looking long term. We need a comprehensive plan that goes out 10, 20, 50 years. And we've got to put something together so that we're planning for the future. And when we are planning for the future, it's going to take our input, but it's going to take resources from the county, from the state, and from the federal government. We're going to have to work with them. And one of the primary reasons I believe it's in their interest is because we are a resource for them. We are a source of income. We are $8.5 billion of property assets that they get to tax. So if our assets go away, if people start losing faith in this community and its ability to sustain itself in the face of sea level rise, people aren't going to want to come here. They're not going to want to buy, and our property values are going to drop. So we're going to need their assistance, and they're going to want to keep our property values heightened, so they're going to want to provide that assistance. But it's going to take cooperation. It's going to take cooperation with the county, WASD. It's going to take cooperation with the state, and it's going to take cooperation with the federal government. So at the end of the day, it's our responsibility, but I believe it's in their best interest to be assisting us.
Thank you. Lucio, do you want to respond to any
Yeah, just very quick. We do have backflow preventers that have been installed. I, as of this past week, was concerned about a particular issue where we had the king tides and the water came up all the way to the grates of most of the catch basins. That gives me a little bit of concern because our backflow preventers should be keeping a lot of that water from coming back. So now I think that they're going to, I spoke to the Public Works Director and our consultant, and I believe that they're going to be doing some wells next to the catch basins so they can monitor whether that water is coming up from underground or from the sea into our catch basins. So we'll know a lot about that real soon. But absolutely, we have Crandon Park is owned by Miami-Dade County. The state park is owned by the state. The federal government is FEMA, which of course, helps us.
That's 1 minute, thank you.
I'm sorry?
I was saying that's 1 minute.
Oh, okay, all right, sorry.
Okay, so we'll go on to the next question. Jim reminded me, or he told me that I should introduce our timekeeper. I assume that everybody knew Griffin Clark over here that's doing the timekeeping for us, but in case you didn't, that's Griffin Clark. So thank you, Griffin. Okay, the second question, assuming that you do get elected to the position, what do you think will be the most difficult, unpopular, and controversial decision that the council will face in the next 4 years? And I understand this could be sea level rise. If it is, then let's go with the second most difficult controversial. Michael.
Most controversial. I mean, to be honest, I'm looking back. We did the Sonesta. That was controversial. When the Sonesta decision had to come out, we had a community at odds. But I don't believe undergrounding utilities and talking to residents. I think most people are in favor. I think the most controversial part of that will be determining how we equitably finance that, what sort of plan we put in place, because it's my impression that we're going to need to do some sort of special assessment for homeowners, and that I think will raise a level of concern among single-family homeowners as well as condo dwellers. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the one I would say is probably going to be the most controversial. And again, it's not the project as in and of itself. I think it's more the financing aspect of that. Obviously, I want to work with everybody to come to a compromise. I mean, I think in the best scenario, everybody gets something and everybody gives something so that we keep this community moving forward as a community.
Very good. Lucho?
We are going to be facing very soon, and when I say very soon, like within a month or so, or even sooner, a decision that's going to be controversial, and that is going to be the land acquisition decision that we're going to be facing and have to, my good friend Frank Kaplan and the rest of the council members will have to decide. We're presently negotiating the purchase of that land with the owners of that land. I personally think that they really have to sell it to us because I don't know that they can really do much more with that land than what we can do. And I also I am trying to influence so that we purchase the Oasis property at the same time. So that's going to be controversial. It'll take some selling. We are going to have to spend some money on that, but I really believe that it's time for the Village of Key Biscayne to own that property. It is immensely necessary for us. So the actual purchase of it, the decision to purchase is not necessarily the controversial part. It's the amount of money that we're going to have to pay for it that's probably going to raise a lot of ire with some people that may not think it's worth as much as we may have to pay for it or not. We'll find out.
Okay, interesting. Both having to do with the financial aspects behind the decisions. Mike, did you want to have a follow-up?
Yeah, I think the entry block may cause some consternation in the community, but I don't see that as we're talking about. I think their asking price is $17 million. Is that right?
Yes.
So you're talking about $17 million as opposed to a project that could, and again, very, very ballpark figures, could go up to 70, 80, 90, $100 million. So I think there's going to be a little more consternation about that than about the entry block.
Very good. Thank you both.
Okay, let's turn to traffic now. We've done a lot to help traffic in the village. We've got smart lights. We've added traffic circles and other traffic calming devices. Most residents, I think, would agree that while these have helped the traffic situation, the real elephant in the room is the number of cars on Key Biscayne. What can or should the village do to reduce the number of cars and otherwise improve the traffic situation here?
I go ahead. Yes. Well, I have been speaking about this for quite some time. We can bring as many smart lights as we possibly can on Key Biscayne. We can do whatever traffic calming devices we can put on the ground. And if we don't convince people that they have to do everything they possibly can to park their car once they get to Key Biscayne and hopefully use other means of transportation, we're going to not be able to help that particular problem much. So I do believe that we have to, we are now in November going to be able to increase the number of freebie vehicles that I'm the council's liaison with the Key Biscayne Community Foundation with respect to freebie and other transportation initiatives. And we have to continue to increase the freebie because I think that's an immensely successful project that we have. And we're going to be able to now use the CITT money starting November, so that'll help us with the funding for it. We need to try to convince our young people and our older people that we need to become a pedestrian community as much as we possibly can. Cycling, pedestrian, everything else. Now, when I go to the community center almost on a daily basis, except now when I'm running for council, for mayor, because I have to be out there and say hello. But otherwise, I work out, there at the community center every morning, and people are taking their cars to go work out in the mornings. That's just the most absurd thing. So I mean, we need to change that mentality. And we're going to have to find ways to do that.
15 seconds.
Yes, and I've been talking to Todd about that and trying to find innovative ways in order to change that.
Thank you.
Lucha just pointed out a couple of different ways. I think the freebie is really key. We need to figure out ways to expand the service. We need to make it attractive to younger people on the Key so that, some kids are jumping in it, but we need to get teenagers out of their cars, and that is going to take an act of God. But we need to work on that. We need to start talking about a trolley down to Mast, because that will reduce the number of parents who are driving their kids off the quay down to Mast. And we need to be really creative in trying to get people out of their cars. I don't think there's anything we should do to force people out of their cars. I don't think that's right. That's not government's role. But we should incentivize people to leave their cars at home or get rid of their cars. I see more and more people reducing their household to one car and maybe a golf cart, and I think that's a good thing. But I think we should be doing everything we can to facilitate that. So that's government's role.
Thank you.
And, okay, so we definitely need to keep working on these safe streets to schools so that our kids can ride their bikes to school. That's really the way that they should be getting to school. There shouldn't be every parent in the world, driving around Key Biscayne trying to drop off a kid when you live 3 or 4 blocks away from the school. So riding our bikes, our kids' bikes, need to be coming to the school. We need to find a way for our kids to be able to ride their bikes to Mast Academy, because right now they're not allowed to. Hopefully we can negotiate something with Miami-Dade County, because the road to Mast Academy obviously is through Miami-Dade, and Mr. Matheson is the key there, because he will be the one that controls the vote on the amendment committee for Miami-Dade County. So that and autonomous vehicles we're talking about here in Key Biscayne. I went to MIT a year and a half ago in order to. Sorry.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, also interesting is when they take their cars to the community center, they take the elevator upstairs from the parking.
Right. And then they start doing push-ups.
Okay. Mike, this one is to you. I want to talk about the village youth. One of our greatest resources in the village is our youth, okay? What are your thoughts on what the village can do to improve the health and education of the young people on Key Biscayne?
The health and education, we have to start, we have to continue to do what we can. I was part of the initial effort to look for a municipal high school on this key back in 2007, and that effort sort of petered out when we realized we really didn't have a place to put a functioning high school for our kids, because our kids need fields, they need all sorts of things to make a high school a high school. We were fortunate enough to receive the opportunity at Mast to make that a choice school. Which I think has enhanced education for kids on this school. And we've enhanced, as part of the Education Advisory Board, we've worked with the schools to try and enhance things for the schools. We've worked with robotics clubs to get them funding. We've done things in this school for everything from being kind to additional extracurricular activities. When you start talking about our teenagers, we have to do a lot more. I think that is really a big segment of this population that we tend to ignore. We don't have sports for those kids. They really sort of, by the age of 13, 14, they're done with sports in the village of Key Biscayne. And we have to figure out ways to get them active, whether it is when we're, I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but as we expand the community center, if we figure out ways for our teenagers to have a section that they can sort of hang out in, if that's still the parlance that they speak in. But things for them. We need to start thinking about movie nights, think about concerts, just things that can get them involved. I'd like to see a youth council. We used to have a youth council on this key that was really interactive, and the kids were involved. And we need to make them feel like they're an engaged part of this community, because when they don't, they're having parties, they're drinking, they're doing drugs. Not you, Griffin. And they're hanging out at CVS. They're doing things that kids do when they're bored. And so what we have to do is give them more opportunities to get out and live healthy and continue to work for their education.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lucho.
So anybody that knows me knows that I've been involved with the kids for the last 25 years. As I said the other day, if you have a son or a grandson that's between 20 and 30, I probably coached them at something. So I was very much involved with the KBAC, which was a precursor of the present village committee, which takes care of all the sports. But we need to continue to support them, because they are the ones that keep these kids out in the sports programs and out from their houses. So the community center is something that is essential for us to start thinking about.
15 seconds.
What? 15, he was saying 15 seconds.
Okay, sorry. The community center is a big thing that we need to work on. We must make it bigger. It's not big enough for the kids that we're dealing with right now.
Time's up.
Very good. Mike, did you have any follow-up on that?
No, I think that's right. I'll just put it out there that I met my wife while I was a coach of baseball. And so I've been involved as well. I was on YAB. I was the liaison. So I agree that the youth athletics are an important part for our preteens, if you will. Mm-hmm. But we really need to start focusing on our teenagers when it comes to our kids.
Very good. Thank you.
Lucho, the demographics on Key Biscayne have changed tremendously over, call it, the last 20 years, and they're continuing to change. How do you see Key Biscayne's demographics changing over the next 20 years, and what can the village do to address, or what should the village be doing to address these changes?
The village demographics are going to change continually. Up till now, it has depended very much on whatever's happening in Argentina and Venezuela and all these other countries. Right now, I'm not sure which is going to be the next wave, but it could come from anywhere because there's a lot of problems in a lot of places down south. We're definitely involved in trying to plan with bringing these people into our community, because a lot of them don't necessarily, they're busy. They go out. Their kids are in the sports programs, but I don't see them here. They don't come to our council meetings, and I really want to get these people much more involved in this, because at some point I was thinking this morning. I said, somebody from Argentinian descent has to start thinking about becoming a council member. Somebody Colombian needs to come out here and represent the people in Key Biscayne, because we have a huge variety of people, and it can't be just a certain segment of the population that represents the rest of them.
Thank you.
I'm good.
Mike?
Good. Changing demographics, I've been here 15 years, and I've seen it get younger. It used to be a population of snowbirds and local residents, but we've seen more and more families move into the community. I don't know if that trend will continue. I don't know how much more room we have. But what we have to do, to Lucho's point, is we have to continue to reach out, and as we do have, I'll call them immigrant waves. We had the Argentinians, we had the Colombians, we had Venezuelans. And what we need to do is reach out and bring them in, because a lot of times in their culture, where they've come from in their homelands, government and community are different. They don't really get involved in government. They don't step outside their homes as much to get involved in the community. And we have to, as a community, be reaching out to them and sort of saying, here, come on in. This is what we do on Key Biscayne. Because when you're on Key Biscayne, you're not Irish from New York, you're not Argentinian, you're not Chilean, you're not Chinese, you're not English. You're a Key Biscayner, and we are all in this community together. And that's what we have to be focusing on, is including as much as possible. I'm part of the welcome committee at the PTA, and the PTA does such a great job of trying to reach out to draw people in, to get them involved in the school. And I think we, as a government body, should try and do what we can to draw people in and get them. To Lucho's point, they should be involved in running the government, but more importantly, get them on committees. These decisions we're making are going to impact their homeowners. So they should be involved in undergrounding utilities, anything we're going to be doing in the future. They're part of the community, and just because they may not have citizen just now, they should have a voice in how this government operates. So to that point, I would say let's continue the efforts. I think we could piggyback on some of the things that the schools are doing. And we will see people want to be involved. I see it in the people that I talk to from those places. They want to be involved. We just have to give them the chance. Excuse me, chance.
Thank you.
I think that just the virtue of the different significant projects that we're going to be involved in, and the fact they're going to require the people from the community to come out and give us their opinions on a lot of things, is going to probably make some significant changes in what we've been discussing. I also believe that a cultural center, which we have been talking about and which we very much need in the village of Key Biscayne, as one of our 10 different needs, significant needs, that we need to continue to talk about that. We need to continue, not just talk, but actually act on finding a place to build a cultural center. And I think with the cultural center, it's not just, Key Biscayne culture, but, cultural for everybody who's involved here in Key Biscayne.
Very good. Thank you both. Okay, now I'm going to ask you kind of a general question about how you see your past. Okay, first, Mike, to you. You have both served on council, and we thank you very much for your contributions. During your time on council, what was your most important achievement, and what was your biggest failure?
Ooh. It's like an interview. That's a tricky one. I'm up first?
Yeah, sorry, Mike, you're up first.
All right. No, I would say our biggest achievement was being able to get the Mast Academy as a choice school for this community. I did think it was a game changer. I think you can see it in the fact that people are clamoring to come to this community. We were just talking about, I think somebody put it on social media recently, that people are actually trying to pay residents to use their addresses. While I think that's wrong, that's indicative of how much they want to go to that school and how much they want to be a part of this community, even if they can't do so. So I'm really proud. It wasn't a perfect choice. I mean, a perfect solution. Not every child, unfortunately, can go there. It is a school of choice and it's a magnet. But I'm really proud that we were able to do that. I mean, at the same time, I'm also proud that we were able to resolve the Sonesta. I mean, for those of you who were here, you remember the confrontation and the vitriol that was going back and forth on that. And I think in being able to resolve that issue that a lot of newcomers don't even know it was an issue is it's something to be said. And we as a council worked hard. I mean, Frank Kaplan was our mayor when that was finally resolved. Buzz Vernon was there in the beginning. And people really worked together to come to a resolution that would maybe not make everybody happy, but everybody came away feeling they got something, and everybody felt that they had conceded something. We don't have a hotel there, we have a condo, but at the same time, the neighbors can live with what's behind their homes. Biggest failure? Jeez. The Shabbat's an issue that I think, maybe not a failure, but what I learned from there was that instead of just reading something and taking a position, I should have reached out to the rabbi. Rabbi and I have talked about it many times since, but I should have reached out and gotten his position rather than sort of operating without bringing his input at the time. I'd love to extend that, but I'm out of time.
You can save it for rebuttal.
Yeah.
Okay. Lucho.
Yeah, so I believe that I'm taking this as, you're saying my biggest achievement as
Correct.
opposed to a general, council achievement.
Correct.
I believe that my biggest achievement has been involved with the infrastructure, the drainage infrastructure, and in particular the storm debris removal part of after Irma, where we came back to our island that was in bad need of help, and we found that the contract that we had signed with the contractor to remove the debris allowed them to have 6 months to clean up the island. So when we got here, they had 3 trucks out there, and we said, "This can't be. You can't do this." No, well, that's it. We're complying with the contract, and then so I called for an emergency meeting. Thankfully, a couple of other council members agreed to it, and we got an emergency meeting where we came and we told the contractor that they had to come with more assets, and they said, "Well, we're going to charge you twice as much because that's the going rate, if you will." And thankfully, the governor and his attorney general stepped in and stopped that from happening, and we in effect got the debris removed within 3-4 weeks maximum. So that, led to my infrastructure issues, that I started walking around and seeing all the problems that we had with our catch basins that weren't emptying out. Now we have a public works director. That is, I think, my biggest accomplishment with the village of Key Biscayne. Failures I would say that it's still, it's not a fait accompli. It's not a failure, a total failure. I think it's on the back burner, and as soon as I'm elected mayor, we're going to bring it back to the front burner, which is going to be the fields at Crandon Park. I don't want to discuss too much about that right now because I don't have time. It would take me a couple of days, but that's going to come back on our agenda.
Thank you, Lucio. Do you want to follow up at all, Michael?
Yeah, I think this is actually a fundamental disagreement between Lucio and myself. I don't think I have any single achievements that I did on my own. I don't think anything you do up here on council is something you do by yourself. I think all of it is as a team. We're a team. We work together. We strive to make things happen for this village, and that's the point of it. There's 7 people up here, all volunteers, but all working hard to do what we believe is in the best interest of the community. So I think it's a team effort. It's not an I, and there's no I in team.
Can I say something?
Briefly.
Yes, in a perfect world. We didn't have a perfect world the last 4 years or so. We had some dysfunction, from the management perspective, and I think that now it would go back to what Mike was referring, and I think we're going to see that the manager is the one that's going to manage the village of Key Biscayne instead of each particular council member having to do a mini manager job.
I'm making a note. Mike gets one more follow-up.
Yeah, just respectfully, unfortunately, I think it was more a product of infighting amongst the council rather than the manager. I'm going to leave it at that. But I think the manager worked his butt off. He did 25 years for this community. I consider him a friend after the time that we spent working together for this village. He did everything and anything he could for this village, and I don't think it was him. I really believe it was a bit of dysfunction on the council.
Okay. Next topic.
Yeah, thank you. We're fortunate to be a community that has a lot of resources. We have financial resources. We have a lot of very smart people, some of whom are engaged, others who are less engaged, as I think you've both pointed out. How is it that we can best utilize these financial and other resources for the betterment of our community?
Who goes?
I'm sorry, Lucio.
Oh. We have a lot of resources in this community. We all know that, and us on council get to work with a lot of these people on a almost daily basis. And they're always there, willing to help. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So we need to encourage the private-public partnership. We have a fantastic partnership with the Key Biscayne Community Foundation that I work, very, very much with. I think that particular relationship, and then the Key Biscayne Community Foundation, of course, has its donors, which are all of those people that we're talking about. That particular partnership that we have with the Key Biscayne Community Foundation is the most important, one of the most important things we have here in the Key Biscayne, and that's how we reach out to other people. And I have a list of, I call them mentors, that I always reach out to whenever there's a big issue up here, and I always am willing and able and hopeful that they have some good ideas for us, because we're not the smartest people up here. This village has the highest IQ, I think, in top 3 municipalities in the United States. So we need to continue to mine that particular resource that we have, and we do that through the Key Biscayne Community Foundation mostly. In the past, some of our people, some of our very involved people have brought us some projects. I worked with Gene Stearns on the Village Greenfields. Ed Easton has brought us some very important stuff in the past, and we need to continue to accomplish that.
Sorry, repeat the question real quick.
Sure. We're fortunate to be a community with lots of resources, people, finances, other things like that. How can we best use these resources to the advantage of the community?
Look, financially, we are fortunate, very fortunate to be as well off as we are, $8.5 billion in property assets. I think our greatest asset is the people that we have. And I think we as a council, we as a government, we are trying to reach out and draw people in, but we should do better. We can do better. I'm walking around, knocking on doors, talking to people, and I'm getting good ideas from people. I'm getting really interesting things that are outside the box that didn't occur. Look, I don't have a monopoly on good ideas. Nobody does. But we have such tremendous people on this island, and we have so many people who care about this island and really want to be invested, but they don't know how to get involved. So again, it goes to, I don't know if we talked about communication at this, well, not yet, but we need to get out there. We need to pull them in, because we have people. We could set up committees for mindfulness when we're talking about bullying. We can draw people in who have knowledge about beach erosion that can be involved, or about sea level rise that can help us make good decisions for sustainability and resiliency as we go forward. The people in this village, it sounds corny, but it's really true. The people are our greatest asset, and they were the ones who are going to continue to drive this community to success.
Thank you. Lucio, any response?
Yes, and we, like we were speaking before, we have to reach out to our new contingent of Argentinians and Colombians and different people that sometimes I believe that maybe they weren't used to being involved with their municipalities at home. I'm not really sure about that, but I want them to be more involved in this municipality, because all of these people obviously are well off. In order to live in Key Biscayne, in most places here in Key Biscayne, you need to have a certain amount of financial resources. So all these people should be coming and joining us in making decisions and bringing their expertise and helping out. That's basically where we are.
Great. Okay. Next question, Mike. This will come to you. I want to, recognizing that everyone has a different leadership style, assuming you do get elected as village mayor, what would be your approach to chairing a council meeting, including how it relates to public participation, managing time and the agenda, and building a rapport among council members to make sure you get the best possible debate?
Look, I'm the chair of the Education Advisory Board. I'm the chair of the Underground Utilities Task Force. I was the chair of the Charter Review Commission back in 2011, 2012. And the fact is, all of those things, all of those committees or commissions have gotten things done. And that's not because of me. It's because of us as a team. And I keep going back to team, but it's true. And the most important part of a mayor's position is setting the agenda, and then making sure that we have comprehensive discussions of the issues of the day. If we've got an issue, everybody needs to be heard, whether or not I agree with them, whether or not I think they're crazy. I'm talking to you, Ed London. I want everybody to be heard, because it is so important that we have input, and it's important that we have public input. I need people to come to that dais. I want people to come and challenge us. That's the most important thing you can do as a resident of this community. Come November 7th, regardless of who's sitting here, and I hope it's me, whoever's sitting here, you have really a responsibility to come in here and ask tough questions and ask for and demand answers, because A, it's your tax dollars, B, it's your community. So we need your involvement to make sure things are going on. But as the chair, you can ask the people I'm on committees with, boards with, and been on commissions with, and ask them what their experience with me was. I'm a facilitator. I have my own opinions, and I will put them forward. I'm never shy about them. But I want to make sure that everybody has been heard before we make decisions that are going to impact this community. That is the most critical role of the mayor, is to make sure everyone is heard and everyone is facilitated, and we're all moving in the same direction.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, well, one of the problems that we had within the past 4 or 5 years has been making sure that everyone is heard, and that I can't agree anymore with Mike that I've seen it how it should not be, and that's the biggest reason why I want to do this, because I know how to do it right. And well, I want to make sure that someone is here with our new manager, who I believe is also a game changer, that is going to be able to put together the agendas and be able to speak to all of the council members that she does nowadays, and prepares them for the meetings. Our meetings that used to take through 11, sometimes 11:30. Last Tuesday, our meeting was over 8:45. And that was by virtue of the fact that everybody was ready. Everybody was ready to go. We had discussed everything that was on the agenda, and we didn't have to leave it up to the last moment here when we sat at council in order to decide what everybody else's situation was. So absolutely, everybody has to be heard. Frank was one of the best at that. You know, he encouraged everybody to speak their mind. Important is that we don't repeat things, because sometimes we get to the point where we are repeating what somebody else says. And sometimes I see some of our council members feel like they have to say something when maybe saying, I agree with this guy completely, let's get on, it will do. So encouraging everyone speaking, and you know, sometimes you'll sit back and you listen to somebody, and then he'll say something that you hadn't even thought about, and then somebody else will do it, and will react to what he said, and he'll bring in another situation. The mayor's role is to put all these ideas together and try to garner that energy to make decisions going forward.
Yell at us.
Sorry.
Mike, any follow-up on that?
Well, two things. A distinction just between us is I have chaired. Again, I'll go over it. Boards, commissions, and task forces. I understand what it takes to really bring people together. I served with Frank, and I usually needed a thesaurus for parts of his communications with us. And I appreciated what he did to facilitate. Buzz Vernon was another good one at getting people to talk. And that's the most important thing we can do up here on the dais, is really talk through the issues, because it should all be out in the sunshine. We should all be talking here where everybody can hear us, and everybody understands what our positions are, and then they can make a decision if they want to support that effort or not.
Very good, thanks.
Oh, one other point, I'm sorry. Agendas are actually set by the mayor, not by the manager. The manager facilitates information flowing to those council members who want to get follow-ups, but it's actually the mayor who sets the agenda. Thank you.
Land acquisition is a big issue on Key Biscayne. We've already touched on the potential acquisition of the entry block property and the Oasis property. But in addition to these properties, what properties do you believe are ripe for acquisition, and what are the priorities in terms of the uses for these properties? Lucho?
My turn. I'm not sure which properties may be the next ones to come on the market, but any time that any commercial piece of property comes on the market, we need to be looking at it. Anytime that a residential piece of property comes in the market, we might want to look at it also. I am not a huge, supporter of the pocket parks, even though strategically planned ones I think would work great. But whenever we have anything come on the market, I think the Village of Key Biscayne needs to look at it, because, it lowers the density in the Village of Key Biscayne. There's some other pieces of property here that will probably be for sale. The question is, what do we do with them? I personally have spoken at length with Ed London in particular, and with some other people, that we probably need to find the right spot for an ALF, assisted living facility. We don't have that in our code, so we would have to, to have a code changed in order to get it done. But it's one of the things that I think that we're missing, and that we have to find a space for. That is probably going to come from someplace in the Garden District, it could be, or maybe the entry block. Who knows? We haven't made a determination where that's going to happen, but we have to definitely start looking at that, because there are plenty of older adults here that would love to stay here, and I think we need to
15 seconds.
look at it. That's it. I'm done.
That was forceful.
Thank you.
So I'm sorry, you said the Weaver lot, and what was the other one?
No, the entry and the.
And the Weaver. Okay. Look, the first thing we really need to do is get a plan together. We have to figure out, what do we want to do and where do we want to do it? What's the most effective way? And that's going to take just a comprehensive, go up to 10,000, 50, and look down and say, okay, what do we want to do and how do we want to do it? I am also hesitant about buying for pocket parks. I'm not against it, but I am hesitant. I'm always, that's purchasing land. It takes it off the tax rolls. I'm not so certain we should be doing that. I do agree on the idea of an ALF. That would actually require a referendum, so the citizens would be able to vote on that, because any change in our zoning code that that increases density or intensity, that automatically goes out to the voters. So that would go out to you. But again, we need to figure out what we want. You talked about the cultural center. The library is an issue. The ALF. more passive parks. We need to understand what our community really wants to do. Let's plan it out, and let's figure out what we're going to do as far as purchasing land.
All of this will be part of our 2040 process that we're about to start, and I hope to be here in order to be part of that. Brett Moss named it, but we were all been talking about it. We had a 2020 plan. Now it's time to go to the 2040 plan, and that process is going to definitely a big part of it is going to be about land acquisition and where are the potentials that we can do. Right now, we're talking about a cultural center. The cultural center that we had, it's a beautiful building that is conceptual at this point, but that cultural center is too big for our library where it is. So if we're going to build that type of cultural center, we got to find a spot for it. I don't know where we'll be able to find it, but the entry block might be a place. And of course, the library, we need to make sure that doesn't go back to or use it in a way if we're not going to have a library there. So.
Okay, very good. And just a little reminder for those of you who stick with us to the end of the debate, we will have a reception out here, but we're not going to put it out there until the debate is over, so you have to stick around. Okay?
Motion to adjourn?
Denied. And I guess I'll have to ask Brett what 2040 stands for.
2040, the next 20 years.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so next question, Mike.
Yes.
Part of the solution to the traffic density has been putting more people on bicycles. In your opinion, what should be done with respect to enforcement of the traffic rules, both for the bicycles and the cars?
I'm for, I think we need to, well, it's twofold. There is enforcement that goes, I think, zero tolerance. I think we've got to go, it was very effective when the village did do zero tolerance. I think there were 440 tickets issued in the 90 days in which it was in effect, and those numbers dropped off precipitously because our police officers, they have discretion. But I think at the time we need to start pushing people to obey our laws, stop at our stop signs, stop when there's a pedestrian crossing. We need to be tougher on that. At the same time, we need to be educating people. A lot of people come to this country or come from other places, and they don't understand that even though the left turn arrow is off, if it's green, you still can make that turn when there's nobody coming the other way. So there's little things like that we can be doing to educate people. And it's getting people back to civility. We need to be more civil. Today, standing on the street corner with everybody, I saw many people coming out of Ocean Lane Drive, which is my neighborhood, and I was really disappointed to see people coming up on the right-hand side and then cutting off 6 or 7 cars that had been sitting there trying to get across. And I thought, we shouldn't be doing that to our neighbors. We should be better than that. We are a better community than that. Let's keep in mind that we all live here. It's a very small island. So I'd like to see tougher traffic enforcement, but I'd also like to see us start working to educate people and to make them mindful of those that they live around.
Could you repeat the question one more time, please?
Yeah, it was with regards to the bicycles. Which you can address it. But with regards to having more people on bikes, pedestrians and stuff, what we should do to enforcing the traffic rules with both the bicycles and the cars.
Okay, well, with the cars, we need absolute enforcement. I just had a conference call with the chief of police and our manager a few days ago because I've been going to a lot of different things now that I'm doing this, and in every place that you go, you hear the same thing. We need enforcement. We need enforcement. We need enforcement. So we need to enforce our traffic rules that already exist. We need to enforce our golf cart ordinance because right now we have too many kids on golf carts. So that is what got to be the most important thing that we need to address. And I think, in all sincerity, that our police officers are focusing on that one particular issue because, we're just one accident away from a huge problem. I went to a symposium last year where a gentleman from Copenhagen came to speak here in Coral Gables. Bernard Siskovich, the guy that is such a cyclist enthusiast and pushing the cycles in order to change our causeway into a parkway, brought this guy from Denmark. And what he does is he goes everywhere and he tries to convert cities into cycling communities. You know, frankly, I think that we need to start looking that way because there are way too many cars. There's nothing that we can do here to help our traffic situation. We can put all the smart lights in the world that we want, and we're not going to be able to handle the traffic at certain hours because there's just too many of them. So, convincing people to use their cycles is absolutely the most important thing that we have in that particular.
Thanks, Lucio. Mike?
We were together at that symposium, I remember, and Mr. Siskovich is impressive. And I think what we can do to get people on bicycles is great. I think Copenhagen's a little different than Key Biscayne in the middle of summer. But I do agree that we need to be getting people more on bicycles. To the issue of bicycle safety, we have, again, it goes to traffic enforcement. I apologize. I just want to be clear that if we're enforcing our traffic laws, I think we're going to be preventing or doing the best we can to prevent tragedies with cyclists. And as to the golf carts, we do have to have a zero tolerance. I think kids have to look. We're going to have to teach the parents that they can't allow their children, because a lot of these kids are going with their parents' permission. They're driving around in these golf carts underage. Nannies are doing it without licenses. So we have to make them understand that there are repercussions for these sort of dangerous actions, because they really are putting their kids and other people in danger.
Thanks.
Thank you. Lucio, we've spoken about having too many cars on the road. What about too many kids in the schools? What should the village be doing about the overcrowding in the schools? Both of them.
Okay. So, we have an issue now with the Mast Academy because we used our money. We helped finance the building of our Mast Academy, and what's happened is that we've. As part of the deal that we struck with Miami-Dade County, we agreed that they would take a certain number of 6 through 8 school students from our K through 8 and move them over to the Mast Academy building. Well, unfortunately, I think that we didn't think that the Mast Academy was going to be as successful as it is. Now, all of the kids that qualify that want to go to Mast Academy cannot go to Mast Academy because there's not space for them. So what do we have to do? We have to address it, okay? So we need to go to the school board and we say, look, we can't fix your overcrowding by moving kids to the Mast Academy. We need to build a new school at the K through 8, campus. And by building a new school there and making sure that the capacity of the school includes all of the K through 8 kids that want to go to public school in Key Biscayne. And not just that, but the ones that are going to be moving into Key Biscayne in the future, because a full 50% of the houses that are on this side of the island have not been converted into McMansions yet. And once they do, you add 2 or 3, maybe 4 people to them, including a couple of kids, 2 or 3 kids. So we're going to have to, do something with those kids. Since our high school has become so accepted by our community, that means that our K through 8 also becomes that much more accepted, because the kids want to get in there so they can get into our high school. Before it was, let's go to St. Stephen's, let's go to St. Philip's, let's go to all the other ones so we can get into Gulliver or to Ransom or to the different places. Now everybody wants to go to Mast Academy. Thank you.
So there's a couple of things here. Mast Academy is a choice school, and it's a great choice school. Coral Gables is a great high school, as you know, Joe. And there are a plethora. There's over 1,000 choices for public school options for high schools in Miami-Dade. Excellent choices. There's excellent magnet programs and all. So we do have choices beyond Mast Academy. Mast was really intended when we decided we were going to move 6th, 7th, and 8th, it was to alleviate overcrowding at our school. The fact is the K through 8, as crazy as this sounds, is not, according to school district standards, it's not overcrowded. But the physical plant is terrible. And we do have to start getting involved with the school district in getting them to move the ball on redeveloping that school. That is really going to take community involvement. What we really need to do is have parents go down. While the village talks to them, I think the most important things as taxpayers, as people who pay taxes to the school district, we should be going down there as parents and talking to them and talking to the school board and saying, hey, my kid goes to this school and it's a 1952 school and it needs to be redone. It's over. The building is not proper to house our children and get them educated properly. It's just the physical plant is old. It needs to be redone. So to that point, I think it's really a combination of our residents going down there and arguing as parents and taxpayers to the school board, as well as the village offering opportunities, because I think there are chances for us to work with the school district. Again, I'll go back to the cultural center. If we want to do that, and we think the best place to do it is on that northeast corner of the parking lot of the school, let's figure out how we can finance part of it and they can do the school and we can get things done for the entire community at large. But again, that's going to take planning and we've got to get to the plan.
On Miami's southern border, reared against the sky, proudly stands our alma mater, Coral Gables High. That's where I went to school, okay? But I don't think that that is the school that we're looking at in terms of sending our kids to. It's not what it used to be. Coral Gables High, when I went there, was the finest public high school in the Southeast United States. We had more merit scholars than anywhere else in the Southeast United States. That is not what we're talking about in Coral Gables High right now. There is an IB program there, and so there is a limited number of students that go there, but it's still not the same. It's not the same thing going 15 miles to go to that school as opposed to Mast Academy. And the reason that the K through 8 is not
15 seconds.
Overcrowded is because we moved half the 6 through 8 students over to the Mast Academy. Otherwise, it would be very much overcrowded. So we need to build a new school here. We need to do whatever we have to do. If we need to help the financing, then we're going to have to do it. But it's got to happen.
Time's up.
Very good. Thank you, guys. So we took one step out of Key Biscayne. We went and we looked at Mast a little bit. I want to keep us over there towards Virginia Key. I want to talk a little bit about your vision with regards to the village working with the other authorities out there, the Miami-Dade County, the city of Miami, regarding the use and development of Virginia Key, and perhaps more importantly, regarding the use and maintenance of the causeway. Mike?
Okay. On December 31st, 2012, the county told us that Bearcut Bridge was closed to commercial traffic. They cut off our supply of gasoline. They cut off our supply of food. They cut off any truck coming into this village. The next day they told us, oh, it's good, it's fine. And so we had to kind of look at each other and say, well, is it fine? I think a lot of people went over it with their windows cracked a little bit just to make sure in the event they were mistaken on their second opinion. But we finally got them to put lipstick on a pig, essentially, and put a covering on it that would temporarily hold the bridge while they made plans to replace it, as Mayor Jimenez stated when he was at that podium. We need to work together with the county to get our causeway done properly. We need Bearcut Bridge replaced. We need William Powell is approaching 40 years, which according to engineers is the point of obsolescence. So we need to have them really considering what we're going to do on that causeway. And that's going to take working with us, with the city of Miami, the county, and the state government, and even the federal government, because we all have interest in that causeway. As to development, I think it is important for everybody to realize that it's not in anybody's best interest to develop Virginia Key for residential or hotels or whatever comes along. We need to protect that. Mayor Suarez, a bunch of years ago when we were talking about Virginia Key, said he considered Virginia Key an opportunity for Miami to have a central park. I think we should be working with them to try and make that a reality for them, because it's in our interest. I've been talking to the director of, Kevin Kerwin used to direct Crandon Park for the county. He's now the director of parks for the city. I had lunch with him and we were talking, you know, that landfill over there is coming up. It may be mitigated by 2020. We could consider playing fields over on that landfill. Now, there's a lot of concerns that we'd have to address beforehand, but there are ways for us to work in partnership with all these municipalities and to make it good for all of us. Right on time.
Lucho?
There is an existing engineering study which tells us that the Bear Cut Bridge will most probably not survive a Category 2 storm, the storm surge. So the Bear Cut Bridge is probably our most existential issue that we have, and that particular issue, of course, involves Miami-Dade County because that's theirs. When they rebuilt, they didn't rebuild it, they just shored it up some. They put a Band-Aid on the Bear Cut Bridge the last time it was about to fail. And they started studying the beams that were the beams and the structure of the bridge, and they basically stopped because it was in such bad shape. And they said, you need to fix this. There's a significant engineering study that I've read that would scare you to death if you really read it. Everybody is just pushing the ball down the street. No one is taking ownership of the fact that we may not be able to get in and out of the Key Biscayne if that Bear Cut Bridge fails. So I am an absolute favor of getting involved with Miami-Dade County, City of Miami, State of Florida, everybody, the federal government. We need to call Trump. We need to do whatever we need to do, but we need to fix that bridge before it fails. Virginia Key is probably going to end up being our solution for Fields if we can't figure it out here. I told you before that I haven't given up on Crandon Park, and it will be my first thing that I approach when I become mayor. But
15 seconds.
Virginia Key may end up being where we end up partnering up with the City of Miami in order to form our fields that we so need.
Great. Mike, any follow-up?
Just, again, the Bear Cut Bridge happened 5 years ago. And we as a council pushed them to make certain agreements with it. They agreed to make certain repairs, which they did do. Frankly, I was disappointed that the prior council didn't move forward with pushing the county to get the plan. They promised us at this podium, Mayor Jimenez, who I respect, came and promised that the minute they finished making those temporary repairs, they would get to work on a plan to replace that bridge. Nothing has been done, at least as far as my knowledge, and I don't know anybody in the community, you can tell me differently, nothing's been done to start a plan to fix that bridge. And as Lucho's pointed out, and I've been pointing it out for a long time, that bridge is critical to us, and it can go in a Category 2. And we need to get that done. So it's going to take a concerted effort by this council to get some movement from the county and work. We're going to have to, it's going to be a carrot and stick sort of thing, I think, with the county. We're going to have to try and work with them where we can, and where we can't, we're going to have to get the stick out.
Time is up.
Right there, killed it again.
Thank you. We're down to our last two questions of the evening, and these questions will come from the candidates. Lucho, what question would you like to ask Mike, preferably something that has not been addressed or not adequately addressed this evening?
Well, something I found out today, which I assume that Mike knows some about because he's on the Education Advisory Board. What can you tell us, Mike, about the new charter school that was approved at the October 10th school board meeting for the Presbyterian Church, and how is that K through 5 school going to affect our situation at Mass Academy?
Well, I've spoken briefly to somebody at Presbyterian or now Crossbridge. I've asked to sit down and find out what their proposal is, and to see what look. I'm anxious to learn more about the school. I really don't have a lot of knowledge about it right now. It's what, 2 weeks or not even, it's a week since they made, less than a week, they made their decision. I want to find out what it's all about. My initial instinct, and this is just my initial instinct, is I'm concerned if they're going to allow students from off the key to come in, that's not going to do a lot of good things for our traffic issues. So that would be that, but that is very preliminary. I'd want to sit down with them and find out what their plans are, why they're doing this, and then move from there. But I can't offer an opinion without talking to them more. To be honest,
Always honest.
Thank you. I just having a question for Lucha. I wasn't sure what we were going to do. I really don't have anything. I guess my question goes back to and again, I don't want to get confrontational. I don't want it to be, but
Right.
if I really don't, but I'd love to know if you could do something differently in your 4 years as far as your relationship with certain council members. How do you think you would, is there something you think you would do differently? And what would it be?
Well, I don't have a problem with any council members on our council now or since I've been there for 4 years. So I'm not really sure what you're referring to, but that's a false news narrative that at some point has to stop. I have gotten along with everybody in my life. You can ask the people from the yacht club. I was on the board of governors. I was on the committee for the seawall committee. I was there for a significant period of time while I was even here. I have in 4 years only had one problem with one person on that council, and that person has had a problem with just everybody else on that council. So I'm not going to sit here and point fingers at people that are not here to defend themselves. That's not what I do. I can assure you that I have always gotten along with everybody in my life. I've been with my partner, my law partner, for more than 30 years. I mean, how often does that happen? How many times do you think you've changed in that? Well, you haven't been a lawyer for that long, but during the past 10 years, So this thing about this narrative, it's fake news. It has to stop at some point. This is the time it stops. We need to go forward here. Let's stop, bickering and you're, like you said, you don't want to bicker, but you're the one that has been bickering since the last.
No, and I didn't mean it as a confrontation. I was just sort of asking a philosophical question, so I apologize if it caused consternation.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. No, I think we recognize that you guys have put tremendous effort into preparing yourselves, into becoming familiar with all these issues. Again, I think it's amazing for us as a community to have two top-tier, intelligent, professionals like yourselves that are willing to do this job for free. Right, this is going to be the hardest job you ever volunteer for. Right?
We're thinking about doubling your salaries, by the way.
Awesome. That was going to be my first vote.
Actually. But just in winding up, we want to give you a chance to maybe, if you want to give a little bit of a closing statement for 2 or 3 minutes, but we just wanted to make sure you communicate your message. Mike?
I think Lucho goes first.
That's right. We had Lucho and Lucho, right?
Okay. So what do I hope you come away with from this particular debate and from the other debates and every time that we see each other? I want you to come away with this idea that, that as a sitting council member and candidate for mayor, I take your confidence in me extremely seriously. I've been highly approachable and responsive to your needs over the last 4 years and will continue to be that for all residents, as I always am. I will continue to work hard and resolve the issues when possible. I get things done. I have a solid record of accomplishments, which you can all check during my time on council, and even before I got on the council, helping the village of Key Biscayne. From protecting our beaches to optimizing our infrastructure to easing our traffic. I've been working on lots of things. Okay. I'm proud to work closely with my fellow council members and with our sister municipalities. I've worked very closely with Alice Bravo, who's the Director of Traffic and Public Works for the Miami-Dade County. As a council member, I have worked very closely on many initiatives on your behalf with many stellar people, including the following, and it's including, but not excluding others. Our police chief, we went together to do the smart lights. I have supported the fire chief in all of his efforts whenever he's come before council. Our director of public works, I can't tell you enough about him. I would need a lot more time than what we have here. And all of our public works consultants and the staff, I am really proud of. We are doing things differently now. Our director of parks and recreation, I've been a friend of and working with for the last 25 years. Todd is a magnificent person, and you can ask him about me if that's what you want to do. Our director of development services, Sergio Escunza, before we had a public works director, he was the de facto public works person. And he, in fact, is the one that went out and checked and got all of the information regarding the catch basins and came back and informed us of the problems that we had. Our chief and code enforcement officer I work with on a daily basis. Our village clerks, yes, more than one, because, you know, Conchita and I were, I mean, I see her now at physical therapy almost every day, you know, and she's a wonderful person, and with Jennifer, the same. I work very closely with the Key Biscayne Council of Presidents, Tony Gamejo and the executive director of the Key Biscayne Community Foundation. We're basically partners with in a lot of different things. So I'm not a polished politician, assuming that's not an oxymoron, nor am I interested in a political career. This is all I want, okay? This election is the culmination of all my efforts for the village of Key Biscayne. Can I finish?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I lived the old Key Biscayne. I've been here for more than 45 years. My wife has been here for, I'm not going to tell you how long, you know. But my vision is that Key Biscayne be at the forefront of innovation. I want for all other municipalities to ask, what is Key Biscayne doing about this particular issue? I only ask for an opportunity to continue my work now as the mayor of the village of Key Biscayne. I am humbled and thankful for your support.
Mike?
First of all, I just want to thank you guys. You know, Joe and Jim, they're not getting paid for this. You know, they're doing this out of the goodness of their heart so that people can make an informed decision when they're voting for mayor. So you're welcome. The $20 is going to good use.
Griffin.
What's that?
They went to Griffin.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Griffin, thank you for coming up and doing this, and I appreciate your forcefulness. You
Forgot to say
good
that.
on the job.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
But look, most of you know me. You know Lucho. Thank you for your 4 years. You know, I thank you for your thousands of hours as a volunteer in this community. You've done a lot. Look, both of us have volunteered a lot of time, and I know it's a tough choice for people out there. Look, I've been the chair of the underground utilities. I'm the chair of the Education Advisory Board. I was the chair of the Charter Revision. I was on 4 different councils over 8 years. I was vice mayor twice. And what I'm going to ask you is, we both know all the same people. We both know all the directors. We know the managers who are here and have been here. I'm going to ask you, ask them what their opinions are. Ask them who they have worked with and they felt has done the best job of working with them and getting things done. Because at the end of the day, that's what you need to do. You know, we're going to talk up here about what we've done and how great we are, but the proof is in the pudding. And so go out and ask those people. And whoever they say they think you should be voting for, take their advice. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity. My name is Mike Davey. Excuse me. And I am running for mayor of the village of Key Biscayne, and I'm proud to be doing it. And I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and have a great evening.
All right. And everyone, if you can just give us a couple moments, we'll have the refreshments out there. And thank you very much. I think both the candidates can stick around for a little bit of meet and greet the candidates. Thanks to all.
Thank you.